Well, hello, Cedarville Church. We are on day 4 of our 5-day week of prayer, and this is Thursday, and we are specifically praying for the lost. Now, the whole week has kind of been praying for the lost in some sense, but just yesterday, Lori Tashner kind of challenged us to be praying for our friends, our family, our neighbors, that is, those who we know. And so today, I want to really challenge you to pray for those who you don't know, the lost around you. And this is specifically who I want you to pray for, especially with the climate and the environment around us in the year 2020. I want to really challenge you, church family, to pray for those who are the lost people around you who are different than you, that you might come in contact with them and be able to share the gospel with them. And what I mean by different is that we have a tendency, it's natural, to hang out, to talk to socialize with those who look like us, act like us, are around the same circle of friends as us. That's only natural. But I want to challenge you to step outside of that mindset and to pray for those who may look different than you, maybe a different race, that they may have a different type of job than you. You may be successful and they may not be so successful. I know these seem like trivial things, like, oh, I don't think that way. But I think oftentimes, if we're being honest, we have a tendency, whether we're at the gym, whether we're even in our own work environment, we have a tendency to drift towards certain circles and to, even if they're unsaved, to only witness or bring up the gospel to those certain people. And so today, as you're praying for the lost, specifically think of those individuals, and maybe, obviously, this is for people who you may not know. Ask God to bring people who are different than you into your life so that you can witness to them and really open up a whole new understanding of who they are and what their life experiences are. And man, God uses that. He grows you in tremendous ways, and you're able to share the gospel in different ways, because each individual that you share the gospel with, while it's the same gospel, you approach it at different angles oftentimes. Whether if it's someone who is well-to-do and they're wealthy, well, then you have to come at it from a certain angle. If it's someone who is someone who's been abused and they're angry, then you have to come at the gospel in a different angle. And so, getting all of these different perspectives will really help you, I think, I believe. And so that's my challenge to you, is to pray for the lost, but not just the lost, but to pray for those who are different than you, and that God would bring them into your life. And you should have on your paper, and if you don't, it's been emailed to you, or you can grab it at the church, the Thursday of the prayer week, and just walk through that, whether it's through yourself and your own devotions, your cell group. And man, I really love that Colossians 4, those couple of verses there, verses 3 through 6. Paul does just a fantastic job. He always, if you walk through the letters of Paul, he's always asking for others to pray for him. And it's really unique in that way. And so I think we should take advantage of that. And we should always be texting your cell group, texting your circle of Christian friends to say, hey, pray for me. I'm about to talk to someone today, maybe that looks different than me, and I've seen them, or I always want to talk to them, and God's presented the opportunity, and so pray for me. So pray for open doors. This is what Paul's saying, and he always says this, and God does open doors when you pray for that, humbly, with the attitude of, God, open the door, and then give me the strength and boldness to actually walk through that door. Because it's one thing for the door to be open, we've all been there, and then the next second, we don't want to walk through that door, right? And then we go back, well, I don't know, the doors weren't open. Well, yes, they were. We just didn't have the courage to walk through them. So pray for boldness. Have your cell group pray for boldness for you to see the open door and then walk through it proclaim the gospel. Some of these people, especially, you talk about asking for people or God to bring unsaved people who look different than you. Let's just say you come into contact with a homosexual. This is not going to be over the night stuff, right? This is going to be day in, day out work for you to get to know them, build up trust. So not all of these are going to be presenting the gospel right away, a little bit like what Lori talked about yesterday. But sometimes they might be. But even in those times where it takes a long time, your neighbors, your friends, your family, people with difficult worldviews that you have to break down, we have to be bold. We cannot scare away from presenting the gospel, and the gospel is by nature offensive. You're telling people that they are sinners and that they are destined from an eternity away from God. So we have to be bold. Pray for boldness, because it's not easy, especially when you befriend somebody, because then the possibility arises you may lose their friendship. Pray for boldness. We need to be bold. And then lastly, clarity, as Paul says at in verse 4 of Colossians 4. Be clear. I've talked a couple of times about having good gospel structure. Work through that in your mind. How do I explain the gospel? I'm giving someone directions. I'm not going to be all over the place. I'm systematic. I say, you turn from this street to this street, you go down this street, you get on this interstate, you get off on this exit. I don't start with get off on this exit and then I go back, and you don't do that when you give somebody directions. We shouldn't do that with the gospel either. We should have good, clear gospel structure. And so work on that. Pray for that. Pray for open doors. Pray for boldness. And then pray for clarity as well as you today pray for the lost, and specifically those who look different than you. I will be praying for you, and I hope you will be praying for me as well. God bless you, City Church.